Awesome. This will now be recorded. So for those of you who just started the recording, my name is Hunter Webb, Keller Williams Central. We'll be talking about lead generation tonight. So that will reset for the recording. Thank you for whoever put that comment in. But feel free to use the chat throughout the session tonight. And make sure we got everybody in. Awesome. So tonight we're going to talk about generating your leads. Here in the upcoming sessions, we'll be talking about how to grow your database, your sphere of influence. For most agents, that's the moat that surrounds our business. The National Association of Realtors every year does a study where they ask up to 5,000 agents where their business came from. And every year that number is in between about 80 to 85% cite that their business was either a direct piece of business from or a direct referral from somebody in their database, their sphere of influence. For most of us on the call this evening, that's ultimately where our business is going to come from. How we grow that database, how we maintain it, how we stay in touch, and how we stay in front of it, that's going to look totally different for all of us. But a lot of us, our business is going to be our database. We're also going to talk about open houses, one of the most common ways for agents to help grow that database. Love open houses, one of the few places where it's open to talk about real estate. Nobody thinks you're crazy. You guys will also be diving into social media and how to capture more leads using maybe internet ads, running some campaigns through Keller Williams Command, stuff like that. So today's agenda, we're going to talk about you, the lead generator, and understanding the value of a lead and why that's important to your business, because without leads, nothing else matters. We're going to go over the Keller Williams lead generation model. If you haven't figured out by now, Keller Williams is a company of models and systems. And I love that. There's a proven way that you can look at other success, because we know success leaves clues. We can look at how others have built this business, use their models and systems so that we know how to color inside the lines, and we know when it's appropriate to color outside the lines and come up with our creativity. But why recreate a wheel? Somebody's already created it for us. We're going to talk about the value of your sphere of influence. Like I said, a database for most of us, that's going to be the bread and butter of our business. That's what's going to keep us afloat in any market. You know, we always talk about in our office, there's two types of people that move every year. There's have-tos and want-tos. Have-tos are the folks that got a divorce, got a new job, just had a kid, that have to make a move. And then we have want-tos, the folks that, man, life's going really good, the economy's good, I want more space. I want to move from here to over here. They don't have to make a move, but because of certain economic situations and their situation, they're able to make that move. When markets get tight, we lose a lot of those want-tos. But if we have a big enough database, we're going to be able to sustain ourselves with those have-tos. We're going to talk about some ways that you can expand your sphere of influence. We'll go over some best lead gen practices. And then at the end, we'll open it up for recap and ahas and talk about your next success system. Like I said, very open conversation tonight. Feel free to jump in the chat, unmute yourself. If you have questions, I want to keep this very open, light, have a really good, fun mastermind around lead generation. So this is a quote from Gary Keller. My fear of failure was greater than my fear of lead generation. Is anybody out there already started to realize that, I have to lead generate, and started to think, I really don't want to? Do you have any fears around it? Anything you want to share about what may be holding you back, or some thoughts you might have around lead generation? Would love to hear from you guys.
Being a newer agent, my biggest pullback, and it's not that I have a fear of failure, but I feel like I just want my ducks more in a row before I just start going out there and marketing like I know exactly what I'm talking about. And there's a lot of things I still have to ask my teammates about. So that's kind of my holdback. I feel is that I feel like I just want to know a bit more before I just throw myself out there to the wolves.
Gotcha. And that, appreciate you hopping on, Mr. Vinny. And that's something that I think a lot of agents probably on this call tonight have that same exact fear. It's something I had when I started. You know, it's an interesting business where you kind of feel like you just get thrown out to the wolves. Congratulations, you passed your test. Now you're a fully licensed agent. Go do some damage. You know, that's one of the benefits of being at a company like Keller Williams is we are so sharing, that we want to help each other succeed. And B, that the reality of this business is none of us are ever going to know it all. And the best And I know this sounds weird, but the best way to learn this business, in my opinion, is to get out there and do it. To A, make sure you're at a brokerage where you have that support system, where you know there is somebody that you can call when you don't know the answer. You know, I've been doing this for 16 years. The broker I work with here at this office, 25 years. And I can't tell you how many times some of our new agents call with questions and I don't know the answer. So I pick up the phone. I call my broker of 26 years. He doesn't know the answer. Next thing we get on the phone with a couple of attorneys from our title companies here in Texas. And it's amazing. Sometimes the attorneys give me two different answers. You know, it turns out a lot of us are faking it till we make it. But ultimately, this is a business. The more you get out there and do it, the more you're going to learn, the quicker you're going to get comfortable with it. And we'll talk about different ways to lead generate so that you find where you're comfortable. You know, if an agent asked me how I built my business, I've moved up and down the West Coast before I came back home to Texas. And we were up in Seattle for a year and a half. And I moved up there, got my license, didn't know anybody, and was wondering how the heck am I going to lead generate? And decided that what I did love doing was playing sports. I'm a big sports fan. You may be able to see back on my wall. I'm a big Mavericks fan. It's been a tough couple games for my Mavs, but so I decided when I moved to Seattle, I would join multiple sports leagues because that was what I was comfortable doing, playing sports, man. I could talk to anybody on a sports field. I have no problem. If you want to talk baseball, basketball, hockey, football, I might even pretend I know something about soccer. And so I found by creating relationships out on the sports field, then going over to the bars after the game, it was very natural. And so it wouldn't feel like lead generation in a sense that I wasn't picking up the phone. I wasn't cold calling people. I wasn't having to wear a suit and tie. Yet I was able to go out, make connections with like-minded people who I wanted to be in business with. And so I think that's one of the big things to help with that fear of lead generation is find what you already enjoy doing and how to get purposeful about it. So really appreciate you sharing, Benny. Anybody else? Let's hop in the, I feel I'm not prepared enough. Very intimidating.
I think for me, I'm new to Keller Williams, but not a new agent, and I love to talk. And it's kind of really surprising to find out when you say, "Hey, I'm a realtor," that everybody wants to talk to you. So I kind of go to my local community events. I have my business card. I have something like with me, and I just start talking and passing out cards, and that has been really successful for me just in like going to like I live in a very small town in New York and we have a UFO fair every year. We are like the home of the aliens, if you will, but it's such a huge event with people from like across the country coming. I have gotten so many leads just from that, just talking, exchanging cards. I think as you get more out there, just open conversation with strangers and you'll be so shocked to see how many people are really open to talking about yes, Pine Bush, Alicia. Really open to talking about real estate because everybody's interested in the market.
Hey, thank you so much for sharing, Jessica. And I think that is so spot on. You may even get to the point where, especially with like your own friends, where you almost wish they wouldn't always want to talk real estate. Where it's like, all right, dude, like we can talk for the first 30 minutes of hanging out with my buddies, like about what's going on in the market and how much I think their homes are worth. But eventually, like, guys, I have other interests as well. And like you said, by putting yourself out there, you know, simple things. I don't know about where you are from. In Texas, we wear the name tag. Now, when I moved to the West Coast, they all thought I was insane wearing a name tag everywhere I went. Yet here in Texas, I've made over $250,000 in commission right off that little name tag sitting on my desk behind me. Just says Keller Williams and Hunter Webb. I oftentimes wear branded shirts out. I helped an agent that she wanted to go to the gym every day. She was afraid of creating conversation. So we came up with a fun shirt. She had a whole series of them. The one I always remember, it said something like, if you think I'm a beast in the gym, wait till you see me sell your home. She picked up a listing within the week. She would go to the same gym every morning at 5 a.m. So it's sometimes allowing the conversation to come to you, being open enough that, like you said, it's amazing. Real estate, it's one of the few truly universal topics. You know, I don't know a single person that either wants a roof over their head that already has one and would like a nicer one, or they don't have a roof over their head, they sure want one. We all, at the end, it's one of the basic needs: food, water, and shelter. We happen to be in the business of helping folks find shelter. And so it really is a universal topic. So I think Exactly like Jessica said, I think the more you get into it, you'll realize it's a natural thing to talk about. And people are actually excited to talk about real estate. Um, So it's really putting yourself out there and allowing yourself to have those conversations. If you're at a market center that offers a script or role play, I cannot recommend enough that you participate in that. We do a daily one here at our market. It's at 9 a.m. Central. You are all invited to hop on. We do it in person and on Zoom every day. You just have to go to centrallaunch.com. I'll put that in the chat. But we would love to have some outsiders not from our market center are always welcome to jump on. But if you're not in a daily script practice, I cannot recommend that enough. We are very real with how we script practice here. We don't hand you a piece of paper with 38 paragraphs that you're supposed to read before you're allowed to allow the other person to talk, because none of the conversations I've ever had in the real world go like that. So we are very big about having real life conversations, talking about what it is that's affecting our clients, what objections our agents are getting on a daily basis. That's one of the best ways you can help overcome those fears, is by knowing you've practiced that conversation. As one of my coaches told me one day, you have two choices, Hunter. You can either practice today for free, or you can wait and practice with your client for $15,000 on the line. I found it a lot less stressful practicing in the office every day with other agents who were going through the same fears, had the same objections I did, as opposed to waiting for the first time that I had a conversation about real estate was with a real live client with a $15,000 commission on the line. So love that. Thank you guys for sharing, Vinny and Jessica. So the 6 core competencies of a business, and this is lead generate, capture, and convert to appointments. So like we've talked about tonight, without leads, nothing else matters. Those other 5 competencies, they're not going to matter much if I don't figure out number 1. Now, the great thing about figuring out number 1, there's no right or wrong answer. There is no, you have to do it this way in business. You've got to do something. As one of my old team leaders said, he used to drill this in my head. Everything works, nothing doesn't. And I'm a little bit slow, so it took me hearing that a few times to kind of understand what he meant. But there's literally nothing you can think of that if you don't do it consistently, you can't be successful in real estate learning to lead generate that way. The only thing that is proven not to work is not doing anything. You know, it was like when I was a single guy before I was in a relationship, and I had a roommate, and I'll never forget, he came home one night, I was sitting on the couch watching a Texas Rangers baseball game at 9 o'clock on a Friday night. And he looked at me and he said, look, man, maybe one girl will accidentally like walk through our front door and be like, oh, I like Texas Rangers baseball. I like eating cereal at 9 o'clock at night, and you'll finally find a girlfriend. Because I wasn't doing anything. I was sitting on my couch every Friday night. Had to get out there and do something to change that situation. Same thing with real estate. If you do nothing, I can tell you what the results will be. But if you will pick an idea for lead generation and get at it consistently, you'll get good at it and you'll get results. Now, once you've learned to lead generate, then you get the opportunity to go on presentations or consultations or assessments where you get to meet with buyers and sellers to talk about their goals and do a needs analysis and help them find that next perfect home or help them sell that home. But we got to do that lead generation first. Number 3, once we've done that consultation with a buyer and seller, we get the opportunity to show homes to those clients or to market their properties for sale. Once we've shown those clients, we then get the opportunity to write the contract. That's going to be a little bit different in each state and negotiate through that transaction. We get to coordinate the sale. And then lastly, we get to manage the money, because once we start to close deals, we're going to be making so much money that we're going to have the opportunity to manage the money, make sure Uncle Sam's getting his piece of the pie. Where can we bring leverage into our business? When is it time to start that team? All that good stuff that comes with lots of closings. So some lead generation fears and myths. Some of y'all share these. I think lead generation is really difficult. I don't have time to lead generate. I don't know what to say, and I'm afraid of making mistakes. Well, lead generation is as difficult as we want to make it. If the idea of picking up a phone and cold calling a FSBO is the scariest thing in your world and you choose to build a business by doing FSBOs, yes, it is probably going to be pretty difficult. So if you're a people person, it's getting out and putting yourself in places where people are. If you're like me and you like to play sports, it's going out. It's finding something that makes lead generation fun. This myth that lead generation has to be difficult, that we got to sit in a cold, dark, empty room, cold calling a bunch of strangers. That may have been how it was done in the past, but that's not how real estate is done today. You can have a lot of fun in this business and wake up every day excited about the opportunity. I don't have time to lead generate. You can build lead generation into your day-to-day life. You know, my mother's an agent here at the office, and a few years ago, I did a panel and had her on it. And it was all about lead generation. And I asked her, you know, Mom, what do you do for lead generation? And she looked at me and she goes, oh, you're not going to like this answer. I don't lead generate. And I go, well, that's a silly statement because I know last year as an agent, you closed over 30 transactions. What did you do this morning is what I asked her. And she goes, you know, this morning I woke up, I went to Pilates and I went to lunch and then I came up here for the panel. I go, great. So you closed 30 deals last year. This morning you went to Pilates. Out of those 30 transactions last year, how many were either directly in your Pilates class or came as referrals? It was over 15 of them. Well, guess what? Pilates for her is lead generation. She's purposeful about going to the same class at the same time, the same group of ladies. She's purposeful about going out to lunch with them. She invests in their lives. This is still a relationship-based business. She knows when one of them is having a breakup with their boyfriend or getting married or having children. She's a part of their lives. And when we do that and keep this a relationship-based business, it can be really fun. You can do the things you were already doing. You're just getting a little bit more purposeful about them. If anything, it makes you a better friend. I don't know what to say. There's so many opportunities to get in, script and role play. We're in an amazing age thanks to YouTube and the internet. There are more experts out there. Tom Ferry's putting out great stuff. Maps puts out great stuff. If you're not taking advantage of what's offered on KW Connect, you're missing out on hearing some of the best agents across the country share literally step-by-step exactly what they do. Some of you may have gotten to see Jeff Glover's listing presentation. Jeff was one of the agents I saw at my first family reunion 16 years ago in a script battle. He shares all his scripts. You can literally learn from the best of the best in this company what to say. And then across the nation, there's so much good stuff out there. And then I'm afraid of making mistakes. You know, that's what script and role play is for, so that we can make those mistakes in the confines of friendly agents amongst our peers. We can learn together. And ultimately, you know, when you're talking to a client, they don't have a copy of the script. They don't know that you forgot. Oh my gosh, I forgot to say that one thing. They don't know that. It's like being an actor in a play. The audience doesn't have the script. So if you miss a line, the only person that knows is you. So we're all out there from time to time making mistakes. It's learning that it's okay, that we're going to get through it. So talking about those fears and myths. So there's an activity in your materials where they want you to pull up your iPhone. Those of you who have an iPhone, if you go to your contacts in your iPhone, and you scroll all the way to the very bottom, I'll pull up my contacts, show you. You can find out exactly how many people you have in your phone. So you go to your contacts tab in your iPhone and you scroll all the very, very, very way. And you can find how many contacts you have. You're going to need that number for this exercise. So I currently have 1,571. And what we're going to do is we're going to walk through and we're going to find out the value of your database that you already have. That if that's a cleaned up, nice number, we're going to be able to find. So we can use the number that they give us here on the screen. Let's say you had 250 people in your phone. And the potential closing opportunity from those contacts is 0.81. We'll just have a second flip over. And the reason I wanted to make sure I had the exact reason they used the 0.81. So according to the National Association of Realtors, the typical person moves every 8 years. Now, it may be a little bit different in your market. I'm here in the DFW market. It's probably a little bit shorter than that. We're a very transient community. You may be in a community where the average homeowner lives there for 20 years. But the homeownership rate in the US is 64.8%. So if we assume your database out of every 100 people, they move every 8 years, and 65 of them out of every 100 own a home. So if we assume that 65% of your database is a homeowner, they'll move every 8 years. This means that every year about 8.1% or 0.81%, 0.81 of your database will buy and sell a home every 8 years. So that's why we're going to use that 0.8081. So 8.1% of your folks every year. So out of every 100 people, we're assuming that 65 of them own a home and that every year about 8 of them are going to move. So we take that 250, we multiply that by that 0.081, then our potential referrals in our database. So we take that number, the 250, we multiply it by 0.1 because we expect to be able to get a referral from roughly 10% of our database every year. So if we know that 20 people out of our database of 250 people are moving every year, and we know that we should be expecting to get a referral from 1 out of 10 people in our database every year, that would be a potential of 45 transactions that exist just in a database of 250 people. And I think most of you, hopefully, when you pulled up your iPhone, probably saw you have over 250 people there. Or if you were to go onto your Facebook, most of you probably have 250 people there. So if we could let those 250 people know that we are in real estate, knowing that about 8% of them will make a move this year, giving us 20 transactions, potential for, we should be able to get 1 out of 10 of them to refer us a piece of business. That would be 25 potential referrals equaling 45 potential deals. The average commission in your market center may be different. My market center, for example, right now, it's about $15,000. So you're looking at an amazing income opportunity. Now, let's say even you were to convert at half that rate. We'd be walking away, and this is at an average commission of $5,000. So you might be on a team where you pay a split and pay a split to your brokerage. You still probably are walking with an average commission of $5,000. So you're looking at about, even if you converted at half this, at about $112,000. So for most agents, is that income potential enough to kind of make your first year in real estate? If you walked away with 6 figures at the end of the day, how many of you would be happy with year 1 in real estate? I know my first year in real estate, I'd have been very happy with a 6-figure income. And that opportunity exists in our database. You know, a lot of agents always come to myself as a coach and they say, you know, I'm looking at buying leads, and we're going to talk about that. They're looking at FSBOs and expireds and getting on and making cold calls. And a lot of times we go, let's pull up your database. If we've truly communicated to our database, if we're systematically contacting them, if we got them set up on smart plans, if we're making our quarterly phone calls and we're still not getting enough business to hit our goals, absolutely, that's when we look to add some leads. Maybe we purchase leads through homes.com or Zillow, or we run ads and campaigns. But for most agents, we haven't actually utilized the value of our own database, the people that already know us, like us, and trust us. Now, for some of us, we get into this business, man, I just moved to the city. I know 5 people. Great. Then the opportunity for you is going to be to go out and grow that database so that you can get it to a number like this that's able to sustain you and get you to your goals. But for a lot of us, day 1, we probably already have 250 people that know us, like us, and trust us to some level. It's just making sure that they now know that we're in real estate, not being that secret agent. And we do that by lead generating. It's awesome. Did anybody run the numbers on their own phone that wants to share the results of that activity? So you take the number in your database or in your phone, multiply that by 0.081 because 8% move a year. Then you take that same number from your phone, multiply that by 0.1 because about 10% should be able to refer you a piece of business every year. You add up B and C, you multiply that by your average commission, and that shows you your potential income opportunity. Miss Debbie, you got quite a valuable database at $4.5 million. Would that be a decent year for you? I could think of a few things I might buy with $4.5 million. And good news, I'm in Texas, so I don't even have a state income tax on that. So that's nice. Amy checking in with over $1 million. Jake with over 2 million. So are we seeing the opportunity that we already have? I know a lot of agents, we want to go out and these companies call us and they want to sell us leads. And look, there's nothing wrong with that. I've had agents build successful businesses using Zillow, calling FSBOs and expired. There's no right or wrong way to do this, but for a lot of us, we overthink it when the reality is within our own phones, within our own ecosystems, we already have the people that know us, like us, and trust us. You know, when it helped me realize I didn't need to have every person in the whole Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex in my database know, like, and trust me. that if I could actually find 250 people that knew me, liked me, trusted me, were willing to refer me business and did business with me, that the income and potential just out of 250 people for myself at triple that commission, it's looking at over $600,000. And that's just 250 people at our average commission. So awesome. I love that you guys got some big numbers.
Hunter, quick question.
Yes,
Natisha
ma'am.
here. Hi. How do you clean out your database? Like you say, go scroll all the way down and look at the number you have there. And it could be a huge number, but how do you differentiate between quality numbers, if that's like a term? I don't know what the term is, to make sure that they're viable or quality or what have you, between other contacts that you have in your phone for whatever reason.
I find everybody, if I'm willing to pick up the phone and have a conversation with you, then you stay in my database. Because even a 20-year-old that's just out of college, there's opportunity there. There's referral opportunity. So there's nobody in my database that I don't think there might be an opportunity. The question is whether I want to communicate with them. What I do like to do is go through my phone, and if there's somebody that every time I scroll by their name, I know I should call them, but I'm never going to call them, then I've learned to just get them out of my database, because all it does is add an unnecessary stress to me. I know agents that run databases. We've got an agent here in DFW. Her database is probably 50,000. She doesn't have a relationship with them. It's more of an unmet database. So there's ways you could categorize it. I've seen agents that categorize it. What we used to teach was met versus unmet, and they would mark that in their database. And how they would market to the unmet folks was different than the Mets. So let's say I live in a neighborhood of 100 people. I've got 20 of them that I actually have a relationship with. I might market differently to that 20 than the other 80 who I eventually want to make Mets. And then what we do in our team is we kind of categorize our database as A, B, or C. The A's are my top 20. Those are the people that I know like me. I know they trust me. And I know if they have a real estate transaction or know somebody that does, they're going to refer it or do it with me. My B's are the people that I know if we see each other at the grocery store, we'll probably give each other a head nod. We're friendly, but I don't know them well enough to know they would do real estate with me. And then my C's are ultimately mostly those unmet. Those people I may have met one time, may have some sort of interaction with. The C's get kind of a monthly email drip from me. My B's get a 36 touch where they're touched 3 times a month. They're given a quarterly phone call. But that's kind of as far as I go. My A's, that group of 20 people that I know me, like me, trust me, want to do business with me. Those are the ones I pour into. I do pop buys. I might take them out for grab a drink. Let's go get coffee. Let's go to a Mavs game. Let's go to a Stars game. Those are the ones I'm spending my time and my energy on. But ultimately, you decide how you want your database to function. I know an agent I was up at a mastermind, and she was saying every year in February, she goes through, she has 1,000 people. And that's it. So she cuts it every year. So if she added 200 people over the course of a year, that means 200 people are coming out every year in February. Like I said, I know other agents that run databases of 25 to 50,000. There's no right or wrong answer there. Awesome. So your sphere of influence is your database. And I do think categorizing it, that A, B, and C category, I think really helps. It can be a top 20, a top 20%. As new agents, and I get this question from agents all the time, what's the most important thing I can do as a new agent? Boy, if million answers I could give you. But ultimately, and this is the national answer, whether you're in Texas, Florida, New York, California, if you could seriously sit down and come up with that list of the 20 people, your sphere, the 20 people that know you, like you, and trust you. And we can make sure that over the course of your first 12 months in real estate, that those folks knew that you were in real estate, that you had big goals, and that the best way they could support you is that they could either do business with you or refer you business. You will find success as an agent when you can create that tribe of 20, 30, 40 people. Because just think, I had a teacher, she was a dual career agent teaching, and she called me one night and I could hear the tears in her voice, and kind of dug into it and found out that she thought she wasn't going to be able to leave teaching. that her and her husband had talked, and that the only way that she could leave teaching was if she was going to be able to replace that income. She'd been teaching for about 20 years, so she was getting paid about $65,000, which is criminal that somebody could teach for 20 years and still only be making $65,000. I have an ex-teacher for a mother, so very passionate about that. But she needed to replace a $65,000 salary. And what it came out to was she needed, I think it was about 8 transactions after paying taxes, after paying split on it. She needed 8 transactions at her average price. And she was just in tears because she just realized there's no way I'm going to get 8 transactions. And what I said was, could we come up with a list of 8 people that over the next 12 months, you think you can get a referral from? And we started to go through the teachers that she worked with. And we came up with about 4 teachers that she thought that definitely could give her a referral. Her husband worked at UPS. His best friend worked at UPS. So we should be able to get at least 2 referrals there. So now we're at 6. Goes to church. 2 of the members of her church, she was pretty confident. So we really focused her business on just that list of, I think ultimately we came up with a list of about 16 people. So even if only half of them gave her the referral, she was going to be able to quit her job within the next 12 months as a teacher. She was able to leave teaching by December of that year because she focused on just those 16 people, taking them out for coffee, grabbing lunch with them, staying front and center with just that core group. She was able to get, I think it was 9 referrals within the first semester of that school year. Today, she's one of our top producing agents. She hasn't been a teacher for 5 years, loves her life, still gets to spend her summers not having to work because that's how she's built her life. So she's built that life by design, but did that with her sphere of influence. I'll try to make sure I talk a little bit louder. Sorry about that. For those that may not be able to hear me quite clearly, my voice tends to go out by this time at the end of the day. So what ahas do you guys have about the sphere of influence, your database? Are you seeing the value of having a database? Not all at once.
Yes.
Rock and roll. Thank you, Tony. I do appreciate it. Like I said, sometimes it feels, yep, we do need to add, it's creating that consistent goal of, it's at, as I don't know if they talk about it at your office, but we are big on that 201 club. And you guys may have seen this. I'm going to try to use the whiteboard in my hand. So let's see. So on the left side, we have income. And down here, we have the number of contacts. I promise I write a little bit better when I actually have a writing utensil. And you have your graph here. And so let's say right here is 50 contacts. Right here is 100. Right here is 150. And right here is 201. And I was literally today just in a meeting with Mark King, the president of the company. He was doing our regional meeting, and we were going over this exact slide. So it's still relevant. And what happens is your income as the contacts in your database kind of goes like this. So they are able to show the agents that have over 201 contacts cap 3 times faster. They have more income potential. It's the magic numbers, getting that database to 201, because if we go back to that exercise a few slides back, and we know that using 250, so if we just use 200, we're still going to have an amazing income potential. And so it's kind of that race to the 201 as a new agent, getting that database to 200, and then really identifying that A group, the people that are most likely to do business with you. That's going to be the key for a lot of your success in this business, is quickly building that sphere of influence, not being that secret agent. Miss Debbie shared my ahas. The potential is there now to execute. And we're going to be spending a lot of time over the next 2.5, 3 weeks talking about how to go out and execute. Giselle, my aha is to focus on connecting with the people most likely to give me a referral. I love that. I had a young man that I was coaching here at the Market Center, and I use him as an example all the time because we do want to focus on the right people. And he had a database with 200 people in it. Most of them were his age. He was a 22-year-old, fresh out of college, 22-year-old kid, great guy. Lots of his friends, they were good kids too. But most of them were renters. He also had a buddy that owns a restaurant here in Texas called Love and Warren, Texas. And in his first year in business, that gentleman that owned that restaurant referred him 6 pieces of business. So when he's putting his business plan together for the next year, it would not make sense to treat a 22-year-old that's currently renting and using mom and dad's financial support to pay that rent. Would not make as much sense to treat that person equally as the gentleman who owned a bar that referred him 6 deals the previous year. So as much as I want to love everybody equally, the reality is in my database, I kind of have to classify who I'm going to spend my time, my energy, my money, my focus on. That's the great thing about having a system like Keller Williams Command or a CRM on the back end, is that I'm able to plug everybody into the command system, put them all on a smart plan, make those quarterly phone calls, utilize the technology to stay in front of everybody, while I'm able to take my actual physical self and spend that energy and focus on the people most likely to do business with me. So if you're not taking advantage of the technology on the back end, this is still a relationship-based business, but that technology makes sure that I'm able to spend my time in front of the people that are most important to my business while still cultivating those relationships. Look, I hope somebody that's a C in my database eventually becomes a B, and I hope all my Bs eventually become As. I'd love to have a group of 200 As. But if I can start off with just 10, 20 people that I can love on every day, make sure they know I'm in real estate, I'm going to have a huge opportunity for success. Beautiful. We'll go for about 10 more minutes, and then we will take a break. Just kind of give you a heads up there. My aha for me is now, since I own a residential construction company, I can connect with them as a realtor. So lead generation isn't his company. That's it, Kevin. Taking something you're already doing and just taking those relationships, making sure they understand you're in real estate, that you're here to help them. When we come from contribution, when we pour into people's lives, they look for opportunity to help us. Those of you who like to network with other business owners, there's a great book. I'll drop it in the chat here. The author is Bob Burg. And the book is entitled The Go Giver. It's a great networking book that might be helpful for those of you with business-to-business relationships. And he's got you Google Bob Burg 10 questions. He's got the 10 questions that he recommends you ask, not all 10 of them in a networking meeting when you're meeting with another business owner. But that you use a combination of those questions. So that's really good. I will, on the break, I will maybe drop the Amazon link to that. I don't get paid anything if you buy that book, but it's a pretty easy read and been really helpful for a few of my agents, especially those that do business-to-business referrals, which is a great way to build business. Awesome. So the lead generation system, it's a funnel. Everything these days is all about funnels. And so let's kind of go through that, and then we will take a break. So at the top of the funnel, you've got the lead generation. And that's where we've got a lead capture. Might be somebody we already know that we've got to put into our database system. It might be that we go out and we do open houses so that we get to meet new folks that we can put into our CRM and into Command. It might be that we're big on social media and we want to build our business using social media. Maybe you run ads through social media. Maybe you organically build your business through social media. Either way, we're going out and we're capturing leads. Now, we don't know when we capture a lot of these leads exactly where they are in the process, whether they are ready to buy or, man, I'm going to have to marinate with these guys for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. You just never know. But we want to capture as many as we can. We then put them into our database, a CRM, somewhere where we can hold them. Then we're going to decide whether they're leads. We form that relationship. Contacts, we're going to strengthen that relationship. Ultimately, some of them are going to stay in that hopper for years. I've had folks that came into my website running ads back in 2017 that didn't purchase homes till 2020, 2021, 2022. They just come on every day. They look at all your homes. I've had folks that I met at open houses years ago that I've been emailing, marketing to, making that quarterly phone call. All of a sudden, they raise their hand 7 years later and say, hey, can you go show us this house? One of the most frustrating things I've had to learn is that just because they're not talking back doesn't mean they're not listening. And a lot of times when they're in that kind of middle relationship management phase, right there in the middle of the hopper, it sometimes feels like they're not listening because they're not responding back to all of our messages. Just might mean they're not ready. You know, we as humans, we raise our hand when we're ready, and typically not a moment too soon. So they may have already decided that they've seen all your awesome social media, or they know you from playing bunco every Wednesday night, or from Pilates, or from the softball team, and they know when they do make a move that you're their real estate agent. They just haven't communicated that with you yet, but they've already hired you. That's why we've got to stay consistent with it so that they don't forget about us in that intervening time, and they forget that they've actually already decided they were going to hire us. So then we cultivate those contacts for conversions. That's where we're going out on appointments. We're seeing who's ready to go ahead and make a move. And then once they go through, they do a transaction, then they kind of loop back and they go right back into the hopper. Because once they've done a transaction with us, we don't want it to be a transactional business. We want this to be relationship based. When we forget about them the day after closing, that leaves a really crummy feeling. So that's why we make sure that we have a post-closing follow-up plan. We put them back in the hopper and they get loved on just like everybody else in our database till they're ready to make a move again. National average should be in 8 years. Based on your market, that may be sooner, that may be a little bit longer. The prospecting and marketing are lead generation activities that deliver leads into your business. We'll talk about different ways of prospecting and marketing after the break. Biggest way to me that I view it is prospecting is proactive, marketing is reactive. Prospecting is me going out, me creating the conversation, me showing up, door knocking, me picking up the phone, calling all my friends out of my database, me going out, doing an open house. Marketing is kind of reactive. That's putting a billboard up, maybe running ads on social media. You know, I have agents tell me, oh, I left my cards at the dry cleaners. Are you going to get business from that? Probably not. That's a very reactive marketing versus proactive. You going in, introducing yourself to the dry cleaner, maybe writing a thank you note. Hey man, thanks for making me look so good when I do my meetings. I have to wear a suit. Really appreciate you. Let me know if there's anything I can do to support your business. You going in, bringing a coffee to that dry cleaner. That's proactive prospecting. You going out, purposely getting into a relationship with the dry cleaner owner versus just putting my card in the dry cleaner and hoping somebody randomly picks it up, says, man, that guy looks really cool on his picture. I want to give him a call and buy $1 million house with him. I've yet to know many agents that have been successful just leaving their card. Most agents, we have a mixture of both though, prospecting and marketing. So I'm going to be going out, I'm going to be generating my leads while also marketing to create some leads on the back end as well. Prospecting versus marketing. Marketing, which is a little bit more reactive, it can be money intensive. It can cost money, you know, running a billboard, which I joke about, but I have an agent in my office that decided a week into this business to go ahead and pay $25 for her husband, bought her a congratulations, you're in real estate, here's a $25,000 a year contract on a billboard. That's not cheap. We've managed to turn it into a decent piece of business for her, but it took a lot of planning. Before you go out and write a $25,000 check, get with a coach and come up with the plan on how we're going to spend that money, because we want to put that in place. It's a little bit more passive and it can be long-term results. Prospecting is going to be time intensive, proactive, and offers an opportunity for immediate results. As a newer agent, I was looking for stuff that costed free $99. So if I could go out there and I could spend time as my capital, that was what I had the most of as a new agent. There was no excuse for why I couldn't go out and door knock my open houses. I had the time to do so. There was no excuse why I couldn't follow up with everybody. I had the time to do so. Once your business starts to pick up, that's when you may start to transfer and use money as my capital and start to do some more marketing, because I'm spending more time out with my clients going and getting deals done. But as a new agent, especially, I was looking for that free 99, that opportunity to continue to lead generate, making that what I was passionate about. Awesome. Why don't we take a 10-minute break? So it is 5:52. We will take a 10-minute break and then we will get rocking and roll. Well, it's 5:52 my time, so it is 6:52 for those of you on the East Coast, 4:52 for those of you on the Mountain Time, and 3:52 for those of you on the West Coast. So we will get going at 02. Go grab some coffee, grab some water, and we'll get rocking and rolling, and we'll have a little bit of fun talking about lead generation. Sound good? Awesome. I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. Nope. That's not. No. All right, welcome back, everybody. Hope you all enjoyed a decent little break there. Just real quick, a little off topic. I just want to tell all of you how much respect I have. I know a lot of you have probably worked a full 9-to-5 job today. You've been dealing with kids and life and stuff. And I know over there on the East Coast, it's already 7 o'clock, so it's dinner time for a lot of you. To be spending your evenings making yourself a better agent and being better for your clients. I can't commend you guys enough. I know a lot of you are dual career agents. More props to you. Just the fact that you're able to put in a full-time job and then still come and give everything to making yourself a better agent for your clients. Our industry needs more people like you who are willing to sit through a class like this so that you can be a better advocate for your clients. So just bravo to you guys. So rock and roll. In the chat, I posted a link to the book, The Go Giver, that I was talking about on Amazon, as well as a list of the 10 feel-good questions that come from that book. So those of you who plan on doing some business-to-business networking, great book. Highly recommend it, whether you're doing business-to-business or not. Still a really good book and cool lessons in there. So rock and roll. Dive back in. Awesome. So we talked a little bit about the lead generation model and the lead generation funnel. So there at the top, we're going to lead capture. Then we're going to move them into our database. Here at Keller Williams, you're given that command system. Hopefully you're utilizing it. The cost savings of a program like that command system is incredible. If you were to piecemeal all the things it does, the smart plans, the transaction management, the ad features, all of it together, you could easily be spending over $1,000. And so the fact that we're able to get all of that, especially those of you that are new to Keller Williams, what Command is today is an amazing tool. Those of you who might have been with KW when we rolled Command out 5 or 6 years ago, no, it was not always like this. It was a little bit of a struggle to get it to the point where it's at today, where it is a effective tool for our businesses. We're fortunate to be at a company that invests in the technology, as that's the way this industry is moving. It's all about the data and you being able to control your own data and can control your own database. That's how we keep companies like Zillow and Homes.com from replacing us in this industry. Is we keep this relationship-based business, and we do that by having a database. So when we capture those leads, we've got to have somewhere to put them. You know, the idea that we can just remember them in our head is pretty pretty fun. But the reality is that we need a system for it. I remember my little brother was an agent out in San Diego, and we were in New Orleans for family reunion a couple of years back, and he had gotten a lead that had come in through his phone. And we were about to head down to Bourbon Street, and he picks up and he calls that lead, and they didn't answer. And he takes a little piece of paper that he had written the name down on, and he puts it and he rolls it up and puts it in his pocket. And I go, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "Oh, I'll call him when I get back into town in San Diego." Now, like I said, we were about to go to Bourbon Street. I don't know if any of you have been to Bourbon Street, but anything in my pockets when I go to Bourbon Street, there's a chance might not be there. And after 5 days of being in New Orleans, the odds that I'm going to remember something from 5 days ago are probably not the best. So as I told my brother at the time, "Man, if that's your plan, we got a problem." I go, "Let's pull the laptop out. Let's spend the 2 minutes, pop that person into the command system, set a reminder to call them on Monday when you get back in town so that you don't forget that lead." We can set them up on those smart plans so that it's automatically doing the bare minimum behind the scenes. All you got to do is get back in town on Monday and make that phone call. So a database is the container that holds all the information for your leads and contacts. And then a smart database data bank allows you to have planned and meaningful communication with your database. So one of the cool features about the command is that you're able to tag each one of those leads with individual tags, and you can have unlimited tags for every lead so that you can systematically communicate with the people that you want to communicate with. So let's say I've got 2 tickets to opening day for the Texas Rangers, who just happened to win the last World Series. We're pretty proud of that. And I wanted to send everybody in my database that I knew were a baseball fan an opportunity to go to that game. I don't want to text everybody I know. So if I go into my database and I've created a tag softball team, I'm able to pull up every member of my softball team so that I know who I want to invite to that baseball game. Now, this is a little bit off topic, but this is a Hunter Webb trick I'm going to teach you. The purposeful, non-purposeful activity. Let's say you do have something like 2 tickets to a Rangers baseball game that you want to give away to your clients. What I recommend doing is, let's say I've got my friends, Mark and Sally, and they live right next to the stadium in Arlington. They have no kids. I know on Facebook that they were home this week, and I know that they're big Rangers fans. So I know if I call Mark and Sally, they're going to take those 2 tickets from me, right? But I also got my friend Josh and Jenny, and they live an hour and a half from the stadium. They've got 2 young kids, and I know there's a 90% chance that if I offered them the tickets, they would not take them. So before I call Mark and Sally, who I know are going to take the tickets, I like to call Josh and Jenny and say, "Hey, Josh, what's going on, man? I know the game's tonight at 7 o'clock, and it's literally like a couple hours notice, but I got 2 tickets to tonight's Rangers game. You interested at all in going?" "Oh, man, we would love to go, but, we got the 2 kids. So I got to go home, help the wife with bath time, but, man, we'll catch you on the next one." And then I'm going to call the other 7 friends I have in my database that I know are least likely to take those tickets. Now, if any of those 7 friends say, "Yep, I can take those tickets," great, they got them. But I know, based off of what I know about those folks, most likely I'm going to get to call 7 people in my database, offer them something really cool, staying in communication with them, knowing that they can't go to the game. Then I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call Mark and Sally at 5 o'clock because I know they live 2 minutes from the stadium. They're big Rangers fans and they will go, and I'm going to be able to give those tickets away. So instead of just initially calling the person that I knew would take the tickets, I managed to take that 1 pair of tickets and turn it into 8 contacts. So that's one of those accidentally purposeful things that I like to do in my business. Rock and roll. Leads versus contacts. Leads are people you have earned the right to have at least a one-way conversation with. Those are the people that maybe signed up at your open house, that have gone in and filled out a form on your website. Those are the people that maybe you know through PTA and you're in a similar group like that you don't necessarily have a relationship with, but eventually you would like to get there. But you've at least earned that right. They've given you permission, whether it was to email, text, market to them, versus contacts, which are people you've held a 2-way conversation with and whom you've built and established a value-based relationship with. So we're capturing those leads, putting them in our database, figuring out who are the leads to people that I've earned the right for the one-way conversation where I'm kind of going to market to, versus who are the contacts who have earned the right to prospect with, to get on the phone, have conversations, have dialogue, send direct messages, send text messages to. And then relationships must be attended to, cared for, and cultivated. It's not enough to just put them in my database and go, sweet, now they'll buy a house with me. We've got to continually cultivate those relationships. That's where utilizing technology like the smart plans, we're sending out automated text, automated emails, setting those reminders for those quarterly phone calls at a minimum. That's where it's keeping it front and center for me. I like to break that database up into the A, B's, and C's so that I can spend my time, money, and efforts most focused on the people that are most likely to do business with me, while knowing the technology on the back end is really going to maintain those relationships with my B's and C's. One activity I used to do to really make sure that I stayed front and center with my A's was I would literally write down the top 20 people that were in my A group, the 20 people most likely to do business with me, and I would go get your calendar, one of those big old wall calendars. A lot of your title companies or closers will give you those calendars at the end of the year, got their logo all over it. And every Sunday night, I wrote down 2 names out of that top 20 list. So week 1, it might be Mark and Sally. Week 2 was Josh and Jenny. And my goal was that the week that those names appeared on Sunday was I was going to get face-to-face with those 2 names. So it might be I call Josh and, hey, man, let's go to that Rangers game. And I might call Sally and, hey, let's go meet up for a coffee. But every 10 weeks, those names cycled. So that I knew over the course of the year, I was going to get face-to-face with the 20 people most likely to move my business and help me achieve my goals. I was getting face-to-face with them 20 times a week. That was how I cultivated those relationships, was spending the time with my A's, allowing the technology to kind of keep those relationships up with my B's and my C's, making that quarterly phone call, but spending my money, getting face-to-face with that A group. That was a huge part of my business. So types of communication, all different ways that we can communicate with folks. You know, when I first started, I remember I took BOLD. Some of you might be going through it. I know we've got a session going on here in North Texas, Business Objective Life by Design, a 7-week course that's really about 50% business, 50% mindset. But when I first took BOLD, I was fortunate enough to get to take it from one of the first coaches to offer it, Tony DeCello. And we got in an argument over my contacts because I counted text contacts, because I was 24 when I started in this business and I text my friends. And Tony and I kind of got into a bit of a heated discussion because he didn't believe the text message conversations counted. And 4 weeks later, I came in with the pay stub from my CDA from a closing I'd had that was based off of a conversation I had on text. And I explained to him that I felt like you don't have to count it, but this check is real money and that counts. Well, luckily, we've decided as a company that, yes, there is no wrong way to communicate with somebody, whether that's getting on the phone with them, emailing, text messaging, face-to-face, KW app, handwritten communication. Now, ultimately, those of you who have studied communication, you know face-to-face is the most effective way, because a big part of our communication is the tonality of the words we use in our body language. It's less than like 10% of our communication is actually the words we use. So when we stick to an all text communication platform like email or text message, we may be losing a bit of the message versus when we're on the phone, or even better when we're face to face. But ultimately, any avenue I can go to have a 2-way conversation with somebody, that's an effective form of communication, and that counts for lead generation in my book. If I'm able to continue that conversation, then that's where I'm going to go. That last one over there on the far right, the handwritten communication, that's an old school method that absolutely works. And I highly stress, especially my younger agents, man, use that handwritten note. It kind of is a game changer, especially those younger agents. You almost shock the older generations when they get a handwritten note from you. I'll never forget, one of my first listings came, I was door knocking, knocked on a door, lady answered the door, introduced myself. Hey, we're having an open house, love to invite the neighbors. She goes, oh, we might come by, but just wanted to let you know we have actually already signed a listing agreement. We're listing our house next week. Oh, that's cool, congratulations. So I go on about my way, didn't think much of it. Every evening after I door knocked, I wrote down all the addresses where people had answered, and I wrote them a little thank you note. I think those notes back then I used to write, thank you for not shooting me. I live in Texas. If you knock on somebody's door and they don't shoot you, that's a good day. I'm not sure in 2024, I might make that same joke, but back then we were much peaceful times. And so I get a call about 3 weeks later from a lady, and she starts asking me if I can come over and list her house. And I have no idea who she is. And I go, absolutely. But can I stop you real quick? How did you get my information? She goes on to explain that her best friend, who is currently selling her house with another agent, met me when I was door knocking, got a handwritten note thanking her a couple days later, and was so impressed by that handwritten note that when her friend, who I was talking to, called to find out who their listing agent was because they wanted to sell her house, that the person who had listed her home with somebody else actually gave my name and number and said, you should give this young man a call. Handwritten notes can be a game changer. Anybody I have a face-to-face conversation with, I love to follow up with that handwritten note. I go to the dollar store, I keep a stack of them right here on my desk and use them all the time. I pass them out to our agents, keep stamps in my desk. So I know I've got a couple of agents here at my market center on this call. So if you guys ever need notes and stamps, just let me know and we'll take care of it. And then at the end of the day, hopefully if we do our job, we capture that lead, we put them in our database, we take them from going from a lead, somebody that we really not have a relationship with, we get into relationship with so that they become a contact. We cultivate that contact until they have a real estate need. Once they have that need, that's when we get into the business of real estate. Remember, if we go back to the beginning of the night, we talked about how Gary Keller said you're in two businesses, business of lead generation and the business of real estate. Now, in this model, as you can see, most of the model is based off of that lead generation. And there at the bottom, new and repeat, that's where you actually get to go out and do the business. And then we rinse and repeat. We pop them right back into the database. This time we know they're a contact because they're a past client. We've earned that right to be in business with them and to ask for those referrals, and we run them right back through that loop again. So it really never ends. We lead capture, throw them into the database, decide whether they're a lead or a contact, move them from lead over to contact. We cultivate, do the business, new and repeat, rinse and repeat. As they say on the left-hand side there, it's best when time blocked. We'll be talking about that in other sessions here of time blocking your schedule out. But making lead generation that priority, that's how you keep from being that agent that's out of this business in 6 months. You know, in our particular market, a lot of times when I sit down with an agent to begin the coaching relationship, I ask, you know, what makes this first year in real estate a win? And they tend to give me a financial answer, and it tends, I'd say about 80% of the time, it's the same answer. It's $100,000. If I can net $100,000, that makes this year in real estate a win, which when we break it out based off of our average commission, paying Uncle Sam, paying your splits, comes out to roughly 1 transaction per month. And agents always ask me, so great, is that doable as a new agent? 100%. You can absolutely close 12 deals in your first year. No excuses not to. The reality is, though, a lot of agents, they lead generate. So let's take this month, for example. You're a new agent, you get into the business, you lead generate all of March, you go out, you capture a bunch of leads, you put them into your database. Finally, in April, one of them goes from being a lead to a contact. You're in a conversation, you go on a buyer's consultation, they sign that buyer's representation agreement with you. You're taking them out and you're showing them houses during April. And you get them under contract at the end of April, and then we go through all the month of May, and we go through that transaction, and you spend every day worried about the inspections and the repairs. Well, what you haven't been doing since April 1st when you picked up that buyer was lead generating. So awesome, at the end of May, you close that deal, you get that $15,000 commission. Life is good, real estate is awesome. $15,000, never got a paycheck like that when I was bartending. But the problem is it's now June 1st, and I look up and I have no business in the works. Because in April and in May, I spent my whole time just worried about that one client and that one deal. That's June 1st, and I got to go back to scratch. I got to go spend the next 30 days going out and capturing leads. The next 30 after that, getting them through the hopper to figure out who is actually a contact, getting them into an appointment. And that's where agents go from, I want to close the deal every month, to doing 12 deals a year, making $100,000 and setting myself up to be a real estate rock star for the rest of my life. All of a sudden, you're closing one deal every 3 to 4 months, and you're sending your team leader or your OP or your coach an email going, man, really appreciate everything you guys did for me at Keller Williams, but I just don't know that I can do this real estate thing. I only made $25,000 last year. It's a slippery slope between being a top producing agent and being out of this business. And when you get the opportunity to go to these conventions like we just had in Vegas at Family Reunion, upcoming down in Austin, we got a mastermind next month down in San Antonio, and you get to hear from these top agents. They all have different ways they did the business. Some of them cold called, some of them open house pro, some of them run internet leads, some of them just have amazing database. The one thing they all do is they consistently lead generate. And the best way to do that is to block it into your calendar. So if you haven't talked about time, first we want to start off with family, getting time blocked in. We time block in our vacations. My girlfriend and I, first thing we do when we sit down is we go over our calendars. We put in our vacations for the year. We time block out our date nights. We time block out time off that we're going to need. Then we time block in work. So we make sure that we take care of us first, because the whole point of this thing is to have an amazing life. Then we take care of work, and we make sure that we prioritize lead generation. She's in the marketing business with her pizza company. I'm in the marketing business with my real estate company. We both have to lead generate. So we build that into our schedules. For me, it's lead generating for real estate prospects, so that I choose to do that in the morning. That's the time I can protect the most. It's amazing how I can protect from 9 to noon, but man, once noon hits, my day just goes haywire. This house that I got listed, oh my gosh, a pipe just burst. Oh my gosh, we're having a bad storm. We need to go take care of this. Oh my gosh, my dog's puking. I got to rush her to the bed. Life gets in the way in the afternoon. I am much more successful at protecting my time in the morning. That's why most agents lead generate in the morning. But once again, I go back to, there is no right or wrong way to lead generate. I got a buddy up in Vancouver who's been successful for years. He doesn't get out of bed till noon. His lead generation occurs every evening from 10 o'clock till 2 a.m. He himself does not drink, but he goes to the bars and clubs every freaking evening. That's his group. He sells high-rise condos to the young hip crowd in downtown Vancouver, Canada. So his lead generation is every evening. Now, he has a team that helps kind of cultivate those relationships during the normal business hours, but he's out there getting into relationship. He's very dedicated to it. I probably could not protect my hours like that. I don't want to be out at a club at midnight working. But there is no wrong or right way, but he makes lead generation a priority. It just looks a little bit different than it might for you or me. So before we dive in and kind of wrap up for the evening, I'd like to open it up. One of the things that we talk about in lead generation that I think helps is you start to decide how you want to lead generate and what you want to do for lead generation. I think a lot of times we ask that question and we don't ask what, in my opinion, is a more important question. Who do you want to be in business with? You know, we teach a class here in our Ignite called The Riches Are in the Niches. You know, who do you want to focus your energy on it? And I ask this question a lot of times in our open sessions here in my office, and I'll never forget a young man a couple months ago, he raised his hand and said, "Who's your ideal client?" And he gave an answer that I would have given 16 years ago when I was sitting in his seat. Well, everyone is my client. And I go, walk me through that. He goes, well, man, I can work with first-time home buyers. I can sell luxury homes. I can do farm and ranch. You know, in Texas, if you have a real estate license that allows you to do commercial, so I can help with somebody buying a strip mall. I can help with somebody buying an office building. I can help somebody buying multifamily. And I used to say the same thing when I was 16. And when I realized 16 years ago, excuse me, I was not licensed at 16 years ago. But what I realized by trying to be the realtor to everybody was I was putting generic crap out for everybody. One day I might focus on a couple $1 million properties and be like, man, come buy your dream home here in Dallas. Then the next day I'd be doing video tours of $60,000 condos. Hey, if you're a first-time home buyer, I got some sweet deals for you. Then the next day I'm pretending I'm a cowboy. I am the least like Texan you will ever meet. I don't own cowboy boots. I don't own a belt buckle, and I don't own a cowboy hat other than the Dallas Cowboys. But I realized that I was just putting out generic crap. I wasn't attracting anybody. My business was floundering. So I kind of sat down with a coach and figured out, instead of how I wanted to lead generate, who would I like to lead generate with? Well, at the time I was 24, I'd been in the service industry. Most of my friends were coming out of the service industry. I understood pretty quickly that, in my opinion, the biggest divider in the wealth gap in America is home ownership. So I decided my bread and butter needed to become first-time home buyers. So instead of putting out content about farms and ranch and commercial and luxury homes, I started to make my social media feeds, the education I was providing to folks, the homes I was touring, the kind of content I was talking about directed towards first-time home buyers, the leads I was going out and trying to capture first-time home buyers, putting on first-time home buyer seminars. All of a sudden, my business took off because I figured out the who. That helped me figure out the how. So I'd love to open it up. Who's already thought about like a niche that you may want to go into? That could be, man, I want to farm a neighborhood. I'm thinking about, I want to be a senior residential specialist. I want to help people transition as they start to go and downsize and look for that next chapter in their golden years. Who started to think about who you want to work with? Anybody?
I mean, I'm starting out, so I feel first time home buyers and actual buyers, being a buyer's agent, is where I'm going to probably learn the most. I understand as an agent, I want to be the listing agent at all possible, always be the listing agent, not the buying agent. But I'm okay doing the initial front work, learning the hard way. Um, I personally, I like outdoors, so if I could ever find a niche in land and getting rid of big acreage of land in the mountains, I would love that. But to start, I think it's going to be first time home buyers, and potentially maybe downsizing. Some senior citizens, a lot of my friends' parents are at that past retirement age and ready to downsize, so I'll probably be doing a lot of that too.
Love it, love it. And the fact that you're even thinking about it, who are my ideal clients? I'll never forget. I had this conversation with an agent I was coaching up in Seattle, and this is where I tell you you can do this business so many different ways. And I asked her the same question, who's your ideal client? And she looked me dead in the eyes and she goes, "Man, I hate human beings." I go, "Well, that might be a problem. They tend to be our clients." I go, "So who do you like?" And she goes, "I'm a dog person." And I go, "Great. How are we going to build a business around that?" Well, she did. So today her business card is in the shape of a dog paw. Where she spends her time is going to dog rescue groups. She volunteers at Operation Kindness at the local animal shelter. She goes on hikes up in the Pacific Northwest in these dog walking groups. She spends most days out at a dog park passing out homemade dog treats with her card branded on it. Her marketing, her ads that she run, it's not about finding homes for humans. It's about finding bigger backyards for your four-legged friends. But there is no wrong niche there. So I love it that you're already starting to think about that, Benny. And the good thing about working with first-time homebuyers, I think, like I said, there's nothing cooler than being able to hand somebody the keys to their first home that maybe never thought they could do it. It turns out that the younger generations actually have a higher desire for home ownership than the boomers that came before us. We're just less educated about the process. So if you can help educate them, it's a really cool way. But the cool thing about first-time homebuyers is, guess what happens? Now they all got homes. Guess who gets to list those homes? And that's how you become a listing specialist. So, yep, 24-year-old me helped a bunch of my friends buy condos, buy little $200,000 starter homes. 40-year-old me, that's crazy to say, now has helped some of them buy 2 or 3 houses, heck, have helped some of them get that house when they got married and help them when they got unmarried. Help some of them, go from that $200,000 starter home into that $500,000 starter home. Now they're in $1 million properties. And so they become lifelong clients. So it's a really cool niche. Love that. I'll see what somebody put in the chat. Trust the process. Love it. Love it. Anybody else thought about kind of who they want to do this business with? What your niche might be? And you may not have thought of it like that. I think a lot of us think, how am I going to lead generate? I think if you kind of reframe it to, who do I want to be in business with? Who's my ideal client? That can help you when it starts to come time. How do I want to lead generate? Making sure that you're putting out the content to go find, I had an agent in our office, younger lady, and she had asked me, how do you go show $1 million home? And I said, well, just like you would show a $300,000 home, but why? She goes, well, I want to go out and do some previews and put them on my Instagram. I go, awesome. I go, on your Instagram right now, how many friends do you have? She was like 1,500. She's like 22. I go, beautiful, 1,500 people. Out of that 1,500, realistically, how many do you think would purchase $1 million home in the next year? She was like, less than a handful. I go, cool. I go, out of that 1,500, how many do you think could purchase a condo in downtown Dallas under 300,000? She goes, probably out of that 1,500, at least 1,000 of them. So if it were me, instead of filming $1 million properties and giving off the impression I sell million, nothing wrong being luxury, man. You can make some good money doing luxury, but you can also make a lot of money selling $300,000 properties. I might go out and film 3 condos in downtown Dallas under $300,000. Say, if you'd like to know more information and get the address to these, drop your name in the comments below and I'll get with you. She went out and did that day. She picked up her first client. It's figuring out who so that I can then figure out the what and the how behind it. So investors, awesome, love it. Luxury, Miss Sheila, love it. Teachers, if they're able to afford a home, absolutely. You can make teachers your bread and butter. One of the cool things we did a couple of years ago was I had a client that was a teacher, and as we got towards the end of the school year, I asked if I could bring up some little pop buys and drop them off in the school, and drop them off and put a little sign out that just said, any teacher that purchases a home between now and the end of the year, we will rebate 1% of your closing costs or 1% of your purchase price. Because if I'm going to give my money back, I'd rather do it to first responders and teachers. And we got a couple of pieces of business, but we kept doing that throughout the year. And then what we ended up doing was, it turns out a lot of teachers like to drink. And so I got with a title company and a lender, and we held a happy hour at the end of the school year. The lender paid for all the beverages. Title company paid for all of the appetizers. All I had to do was call, make the reservation, and invite the teachers. We ended up that summer picking up 5 teachers. So they're a great group to get in front of, and to be working with a lender that can offer some pretty cool programs that might be out there for first responders, teachers. So really awesome. That can be a really cool niche. Love it. Love it. My friends are starting to retire and downsize, so that's going to be my focus. I love that, Diane. Jeffrey, kind of same thing. I thought about retirees. There's some amazing education, some really cool senior real estate specialist certifications. My big thing on certifications, never go get one just because you want those letters. Nobody else knows what any of the letters behind your name mean. It's like when I go see the doctor and he's got 38 different initials. I don't know what those mean. I assume the other doctors do. Just like real estate, I have no idea what half of the people that I get business cards from, what the hell they're talking about. But I know somebody cares. But if you think that class might actually give you content you want, don't go for the initials. Go because it's something you're interested in. Awesome. So your sphere of influence, we've talked a lot about that tonight. Those are the people that you already know, like, and trust. There's a really cool activity that we do in Bold, where they basically go through, it's a yellow books activity where you go through and you start to realize how many people you actually know. I don't know that I can share that. It's Bold, so it's copyrighted material, but it basically asks you, who's your doctor, who's your accountant, who's your banker? And if you don't have those people, then you go out and you find them. So who is in your immediate family? Who are your friends, your relatives, your neighbors, your past coworkers, your hobby sports groups, your teachers, your worship club volunteers? Jeffrey, thanks so much for sharing that SRES right there. So those of you that are interested in the Senior Real Estate Specialist designation, Mr. Houston just dropped that in the chat for us. Much appreciated. And when it comes to your sphere of influence, especially that top 20 that I've kind of been harping on, I think we have a tendency to overthink it. You know, your significant other, that's probably A1. If you're not asking, you know, my girlfriend and I, she does not like talking about her business, nor do I like necessarily, we're not always the best at talking about our own businesses. I don't like to toot my own horn. We were out to dinner the other night with a couple of friends who had recently gotten engaged. And my girlfriend gets up from the table at one point, and I lean over to the two of them and I go, Taylor, you know, when you have the wedding, you're going to have to hire Elise for the catering, right? Because, like, she's the best. And sure enough, they booked Elise for the catering. Well, it turns out the second I went to the restroom, Elise was like, you know, when you guys buy the house, you're going to have to call Hunter because he's going to take amazing care of you. Well, guess who my latest buyer under contract was? Because we both will sing each other's praises. I get her 4 to 5 parties a month. She sends me 1 to 2 referrals a month. We know that our business is how our family is going to work. So we want to help support each other. But we overthink it. Your best friend, man, that can be a great source of referral. Mom, dad, brother, sister, uncle, aunt. Don't overthink it. These can be the people that you already have amazing relationships with. They should be the ones that you're having that conversation. Ring, ring, what's going on, Jeff? Hey, man. And when I talk to my friends and make this call, I'll make it as real as I can be. Hey, Jeff, what's going on, man? This is going to be weird. Because my friends, if I call them and have a business call, that's weird. That's not normally what we do. But hey, man, I know this is going to be weird, but you might have seen I just got into real estate. I'm super excited about it. And I've actually set a really big goal for my family and I. I've set a goal of helping 12 families buy or sell homes this year in Dallas. And I'm reaching out to good friends like you. Like I said, this is weird, man. This feels awkward for me, but I'm reaching out for friends like you because I know I'm not going to be able to hit that goal and get my family where I want to go if I don't have friends like you helping support my business. So I know you and your wife love where you guys live. But if you know of anybody at work, anybody that you're playing sports with, anybody your kids' friends with that are thinking about making a move, man, I would love to be able to help them so that I can hit my goal. And man, you know that if there's ever anything I can do to help you hit your goal, man, I'm literally a phone call away and really want to support you. I've found that by being that authentic and that vulnerable with the people I already know, like, and trust, that they were willing to help support. You know, think about it. If any of your friends picked up the phone tonight and called you and said, I'm going to pick on Benny because I can just see him because he's the last guy that talked, but they called you and they said, hey, Benny, man, I'm working at a car dealership, bro. I got a huge goal. Is there any way you could help me, man? If you know anybody over the next couple months thinking about buying a car, would you please at least give me an opportunity to work with them? And if they're an actual friend, I think most of us would do it if they were that authentic and real with you. Now, if they just call and say, hey, man, if you know anybody, that'd be cool. May or may not. But when they tell you, man, I got a goal, this is something that's important to me, it's important to my family, and always know, man, when you got your goals, I want to help you get there too. Because people love to reciprocate. David chimes in, I'm a retired Navy vet who would love to help the veteran community. David, if you haven't plugged in with KW Military yet, I cannot not sing their praises enough. One of my other coaches is a Navy vet as well. We are working on a couple different really cool things with KW Military right now here in our market center. Matt Grudel and Dina Custer are the two heads of theirs. Both are amazing energy, amazing people. Dina kind of more focuses on the spouse side of things. Matt's ex-Army Ranger bull coach today. So if you haven't connected with them, I highly recommend it. They got some great resources for you. You know, what professional service and what financial legal services could you add to your database? You know, I mentioned earlier, you know, the dry cleaner, but the people that you've been supporting their business for the last 10, 15, 20 years, even though you're brand new to real estate, you've earned that right to ask for that business. You know, the guy that's been cutting your yard for the last 15 years, you've earned the right to let him know you're in real estate. Man, I would love the opportunity as you're cutting a lot of people's yards. You probably see a lot of people getting ready to sell a house. Would love the opportunity to help them sell their house. That lady that's been cutting your hair for the last 15 years. Man, I don't know about the women's salons, but in the men's barbershop, a lot of talking goes on. Those barbers know what's going on in everybody's life at all times. They can be great sources of referral. Attorneys you've used in past situations, they can be great. People you've got a professional relationship with that you've been supporting their business, you've earned that right to ask for their business. Awesome. As you build out your database, collecting that personal information so that you have multiple ways to contact them. You know, we want to be able to give them a phone call. If we can add that home address, that allows us to open up those monthly neighborhood nurture plans that we're using with Smart Plans. Also allows us to send handwritten letters, little pop bys. We want to gather as much contact information as possible. Love it. David said, I just asked my barber today. He said he wants to buy before the end of the year. That's it, man. The guy you go, some of my clients and just the people you interact with on a daily basis, A, they can give you referrals. B, they have needs themselves. I've sold homes to a Walmart greeter. Turned out the dude was sitting on a pile of cash he didn't know what to do with. He had moved to the United States about 15 years ago from Johannesburg, South Africa. He had sold his ranch down there. He was just a 70-year-old dude who was bored out of his mind, so he got a job at Walmart. Every time I would walk in, he'd always want to talk real estate. Kind of in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, man, this guy's a Walmart greeter. He probably ain't going to be buying much of a house, but cool, I'll humor him. I got nothing better to do. I'm shopping at Walmart at 8 o'clock on a Tuesday night. Sure enough, all of a sudden one day he's like, let's go look at a house. I'm like, awesome. He sends me the address. I'm thinking, you know, maybe a $250,000 little retirement home. No, it's a $1.5 million home. And then I helped his son and his daughter both buy homes over the $1 million mark. You just never know who you're having those conversations with. So if you allow yourself, open it up, as one of you had talked about, real estate's something people love to talk about. Wear that stupid little badge, wear that KW shirt. Just know that time that you're running 10 minutes late somewhere and you're wearing that badge, that's absolutely going to be the time that they're going to want to stop and talk to you about real estate. So kind of keep that in mind as you're running around. Expand your sphere of influence, strengthen those casual connections. You're looking for ways to get into relationship with people. Join groups that will connect you with people with similar interests and values. That's where, you know, you get to decide how you want to build this business. A great way, it looks like the picture there, it looks like a volunteer opportunity, especially for those of you who may not have that database. That's a great way to connect with other people. We're fortunate we work in a business that is not necessarily 9 to 5. So you're able to go volunteer at times when other people are stuck at the office and get to meet other folks with like-minded interests. Join those HOA communities, join those neighborhood beautification communities, become a part of the White Rock Preservation, become a part of the Humane Society, become a part of whatever organization speaks to your heart so that you can meet like-minded folks and get into relationship with them. Referrals. So gather leads from your sphere of influence. They give you some scripts in there that you guys will be able to go through. You've got some great resources in the scripts file. So I'm going to kind of put a bookmark in it there. Would love to open it up. We got about 15 minutes left. What questions, comments, ahas? If not, I'll give you back a little bit of your time this evening. What you guys got?
I just think for me, a big takeaway is the time blocking. Uh, I work a full-time job. I go to work at 6 a.m. I get off at 2:30. It's a dirty job, so I got to go from dirty and grimy to cleaned up for real estate. So time blocking. Plus, I have a 12-year-old daughter. It's sometimes I struggle with it, but I think if I stay more dedicated to making at least 2 hours dedicated to lead generation, it's going to make a real change in my business.
I love that, man. And that's why we tell you, put that family first. And what I found by time blocking is it allows me to be present where I need to be when I need to be. Because I know if I've time blocked time for my family, that when I'm with my family, but I've also time blocked for my lead generation, that I get to be 100% present with my family, that I don't have to be worrying about, oh, I didn't lead generate. No, that's in my calendar for later in the day or for earlier in the day. This was the time I said I'm going to get to spend with my daughter. Then that's where I get to be present. And that way, when I'm in my business, I don't have to feel guilty that I'm sacrificing something from my family because I made them priority one. They were who got time blocked in. Everything else is second. But I know now that I'm spending time in my business that I've allowed that, I've built that into my schedule so that I was present with my family when I was supposed to be, and now I get to be present in my business, and I don't kind of get crossed up where I'm half foot in, half foot out with both of them. You know, when I'm worried about my family while I'm doing business, it kind of, my clients can feel it. And when I'm thinking about business, when I'm with my family, they absolutely, because I grew up in a real estate family. I knew when mom and dad were not really paying attention to my baseball game when we're in the middle of doing deals. Kids notice that stuff. So we want to make sure that you get to be an awesome dad. And then when it comes to the dual career, the best advice I can give any of you that are in dual career is when you do get to time block and get to do real estate, make it dollar productive activities. Yeah, building up an awesome website, a Facebook page, having really cool business cards and marketing, that stuff's all awesome. But you can choose at some point whether you want to leverage time or money to go do that. What you won't be able to do is leverage time or money if you're not still in this business. So you spending 6 hours building out this awesome website when you can instead be spending 6 hours going and grabbing coffee, beer, watching a game with somebody that's actually going to do business with you, I think is so much more valuable. So it's focusing, making sure we call it that 80-20 principle. You guys might have talked about it on night 1 or 2, where 20% of your activities give you 80% of your results. Spend that, especially for those that are dual career, spend as much time in that 20% and stay out of that 80. That 80, you're eventually going to be able to solve it by giving yourself more time, by being able to go full-time into real estate, or by being able to use leverage that might cost you a little bit of money. But if you're generating enough business, that's not going to be a problem at all. So love it. And Vinny, thank you so much for participating tonight. It makes me feel like I'm not talking to a brick wall all evening. A recommendation, I am in the process of doing business cards. Should I do it under my name or under a business card? I want to be present my time with whomever I engage with. I definitely would do the main thing on your business card, I think, is your name. I typically don't put my picture on it, but I know why most agents do. And the other thing with business cards, and everything you guys do is authenticity. You know, business cards, have fun with it. It doesn't have to be the most generic card in the world. I had a young lady, she was a stand-up comedian, and I was asking her, you know, are you lead generating when you go to the clubs? All these, you know, folks come up to you after the show and they want to get to know you. Are you talking about real estate? And she's like, oh my God, you couldn't pay me to get my business card out. I'm so embarrassed by it. You paid for it. Why did you pick a business card you're embarrassed by? It was just a generic looking business card. So what we did for her was we came up with, they were on black. They kind of looked like Cards Against Humanity cards. And they had really dark, sometimes borderline, I'm not sure I would hand them to Mo Anderson kind of jokes on them. But she would literally started to hand those out at the comedy club. And people would literally ask, hey, can I get a couple of those to give to my friends? Like, could you imagine if you had a business card that was good enough that people were like, instead of just immediately throwing it in the trash can, they were like, oh, this is pretty cool. I'd actually like to be able to give a couple of these to my friends. It's authenticity. Now, my 70-year-old father, if you gave him that card with a somewhat inappropriate joke, is probably never going to do business with that young lady. Well, I can tell you if they did do business, it wouldn't be a fun fit. She would not enjoy working with my dad, and my dad wouldn't enjoy working with her. That's cool. That's not who she wants to be in business with. She likes people that come to comedy shows that like a weird sense of humor. You know, the lady I gave the example of, the dog, had the dog paw. Have fun with your business cards. You can do that with your bios. You know, some of you may have never gotten to experience the joys that is online dating, but your bio on your website, don't be generic. Man, it's like you're on a dating site. Make them swipe right. Talk about who you are. Rule people out. That's okay. There's over 5 million people in the DFW Metroplex. I do not want to work with most of them. I want my tribe of like-minded people. Your bio can be authentic. Let it show personality. Have fun with it, man. This is a business you get to have fun with. Love it. As Evelyn said, you can do both. You can have your name, the team name underneath it. You could have business cards for both. I have business cards that I hand out that don't have my picture on it. I also have cards that have my picture on it for when I go to events like family reunion. Because I know if I meet somebody from another state, they're probably not going to be able to remember me just off my name. So I do have pictures on them. So you can have multiple cards. I had the one mistake I made with business cards was I went to moo.com and I ordered their extra nice cards that were like 2 colors on both sides and then had like a little line of color in between them. They were like damn near like half an inch thick. They cost like $1.50 a card. They were so awesome. I never wanted to give them to anybody. I still have a stack of, like, out of the 500 I ordered, I think I still have 475 of them, and none of the contact information is any accurate anymore, so they just went to waste. But now I won't even throw them away. They were that expensive that I'm like, I'm still holding on to these in case I ever get that phone number back. So don't do that unless you just have money to burn. Awesome. Well, I'm going to throw my contact information in here one more time, and I see it looks like Rachel, you maybe just unmuted.
Well, no, I actually just had a question. So I, going back to, going through your contacts and, things like that, I actually did that when I got my license about a year ago. And I had family members who were interested in purchasing a new home. I had some family members who were selling their home, but chose to go with a more experienced person, a more experienced agent, And so I was thinking of possibly, buying leads, or something in that nature. But I was told door knocking and door hangers are kind of the way to go. And I've never done that. Everybody says, cold calls, things like that. And I didn't know if I door knock, they said, make sure that you come prepared with door hangers and something to put in their door. And, but I don't know. I mean, have you had any experience with that? Is that something that I would need to make sure that I leave, a specific door hanger or anything like that, when I do decide to door knock in the event that's the route I go?
For sure. It's up to you what you bring to the door. And check with your local municipalities. A lot of places these days, you may have to register or sign up so that it's legal. So I definitely want to make sure we cover that. I used to love door knocking.
Okay.
I would door knock two different situations. I door knocked around my open houses. So that's why I love doing open houses, because they gave me opportunities to lead generate. We did 10, 10, 20 at open houses. 10 homes to the left, 10 homes to the right, 20 across the street. Reason being, at least here in my neighborhood in Texas, I've literally watched it happen in the last 2 weeks. When one sign goes up, it almost inevitably 2 to 3 more come right after it. And I think that's literally because people are sitting there, you see the house cross street got listed, you immediately pull up your app of choice and you go, oh my gosh, they could get 500,000 for that. We'd get 650 for our house. I want to be the agent knocking on your door after you had that conversation last night with your husband. Hey guys, Hunter Webb with Keller Williams. We just listed the house right down there across the street from you. Just wanted to give you a heads up. We're going to be having an open house this weekend from 1 to 3 p.m. So you may see a little bit of extra traffic, but we'd love to have you over. We're actually doing a neighbors only open house preview from 12:30 to 1. So if you've got friends or family you want to get moved into the neighborhood, bring them by and we're going to be doing a complimentary valuation. So if you want to know what your home would cost in this market, we'll be doing that. Got a little flyer on the house for you. Love to see you on Saturday from 12:30 to 2.
Okay.
One situation I door knocked, and this is the other. I don't know about your markets, but our market's starting to heat up again. We're not as crazy as we were in 21 and 22, where it was multiple offers on everything, but we're starting to get back there. Circle prospecting, especially as a new agent. You're like, well, I don't have anybody to circle prospect for. I bet you somebody at your office over the course of the spring and summer is going to have a buyer they cannot find property for. So I would go meet with those agents. Hey, who's got a buyer they're struggling to find a home for? Oh, I got a buyer they're looking in Richardson, 400,000 to 500,000. We can't find anything. Great. They got a couple of neighborhoods they like. Well, they really love this neighborhood and this neighborhood. Awesome. Would you mind if I went out and lead generated for them? And so I made up this old. It was a double-sided postcard. I used to print them up here at the office. I had to like cut them myself. I'm all about cheap. But on one side, it was just a wanted like old Western sign. The other side, just a description of what that particular client. I have a client looking for this, blank, blank, blank. That gave me a reason to go up to those doors and knock on them. Okay. And so I thought circle prospecting was a huge part of my business because it gave me a reason to go out. If I didn't have a buyer, somebody in my 400 agents here at this office has a buyer that I can go out and find homes for. So I can pick up those listings.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And it's fine. You know, some agents, you can't pay them enough money to knock on the doors. Some agents, you can't pay them enough money to pick up the phone and call a stranger. I have other agents, I couldn't pay them enough money to pick up the phone and call their best friend. So it's like we talked about a little bit earlier, everything works, nothing doesn't. So I love door knocking, especially in Texas. As long as it's under 90 degrees, I'm all about it. Once we hit 90 and up, then okay, I'm putting the shoes up for the next couple of months and we're going to go back to making those phone calls.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, guys, I threw my contact information in the chat. If I can ever do anything to help any of you, like I said, I can't thank you enough for being on. I know how sitting through a Zoom class from 7 to 9 at night, how fun and exciting that can be. So I really do appreciate y'all's time. It says a lot about you that you're taking this time to invest in yourself, invest in your clients. Wish you nothing but the best of success. But seriously, if we can ever do anything for you down here in Texas, let us know. I'm going to drop the link. Any of y'all that are at a market center that does not have a script practice, you are, like I said, welcome. Sometimes it might be a little Texas centric, but we talk about a lot of the same stuff that's going on in your market. So y'all are welcome to hop into ours. We do it in person and on Zoom. All you have to do is go to www.centrallaunch.com. We do ours at 9 a.m. Central Time, so that's 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Mountain, 7 o'clock West Coast. And then one more thing I'm going to pull up real quick. For those of you on the East Coast or those of you that are not on the East Coast that just love getting up early in the morning, if you were not aware, there is a great Facebook group that does a daily call called Pivot Shift Ahead. Some of you may already be aware of this group. It started up during the pandemic. And let me go to James's website. And they start at, I believe, 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central Time, and do a daily call where they have top agents on talking about what they're doing. They just did a really awesome webinar yesterday with a young lady named Emily Peckham out of Nashville who does FSBOs. If you go into KW Command or KW Connect and you just search Emily Peckham, some of the previous interviews James had done with her on there. What an awesome young lady. So there's really great stuff there. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for being on tonight. Do not hesitate to reach out if I can do anything to help. I'll probably hop on Zoom for a couple of your other sessions just to kind of hang out and learn from some of the other amazing instructors that you guys have coming up the next 3 weeks. But go out there, get your unfair share, and remember, without leads, nothing else matters. Thank you, guys. Y'all have an awesome evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Hunter.
Y'all have a good one.